Murder and it's mystery and it's China and it's Bo Xilai and a British businessman dead, and the Wall Street Journal has been all over this story. We've got Brian Spiegel of the Wall Street Journal is coming to us from Chongqing now to tell us what is the latest on the last hours of that murdered businessman. Brian, tell us what is the latest?
Well, I'm in Chongqing right now, which is the southwestern megacity where Bo Xilai was. That was his power base toward the end of his political career. What's emerging from my colleague Jeremy Page, who has an article today on the front page of the Journal, is that Mr. Heywood, in the last hour of his life, in the last days of his life, was so concerned about his own safety. He talked with his friends about this, and then he also alleges that he gave incriminating documents to a lawyer, we think in the UK, which might detail some of the Bo family wealth, which we believe to be possibly stored overseas. It's a bit unclear what those documents specifically might say, or whether they even exist. But what it does demonstrate is that Mr. Heywood, he was very cunning. He was very smart. He realized that he was in a very tough situation, and he was trying to buy himself a bit of insurance, and he told that to the Bo family.
Brian, you know, one of the things I think people here in the U.S., they're always skeptical of any news that comes out of China, especially when it's from the government news agencies. Through your own reporting, it sounds like there is a definite link and a definite conflict between the Bo Xilai camp and Mr. Heywood, and it sounded like it was peaking in those hours just before his death.
Yeah, it's tough to know precisely what is going on, but I think you've hit the point. This is one of perhaps the rare times where the state-run media and what Western media has been aggressively reporting are actually finding some of the same things. The state-run Xinhua news agency came out with their statement against Mr. Bo, and what they said essentially is that Gu Kailai, Bo Xilai's wife, and Neil Heywood had an economic conflict. Which is the same as what the Wall Street Journal had been reporting, and what others came to report in the weeks before that announcement was made. And so, yes, the Chinese government has finally come out and said what some Western news agencies were beginning to report, and that's part of the remarkable part of the whole thing.
So what can we expect prosecutors to start doing with this case? How does the legal process work in China?
Well, what's important to remember, this isn't just a normal legal case either. We're at the level of a Politburo member being charged with, which happens not very often at all. Maybe once every 5 to 10 years we see one of these cases. So with that said, this isn't going to necessarily take normal legal procedures. Even though the Chinese government is saying this will play out normally. What we can imagine is going on right now is that Mr. Bo is being held in confinement. He's being detained, as he has been for the better part of a month now. He might be interrogated at the moment. They are perhaps trying to get a confession out of him. And if and when they're able to get that confession, they're able to take that to the country and say that, yes, Mr. Bo committed such and such a crime, or his wife committed such and such a crime, and then they can take sentencing from there.
Brian, real quickly, you're in Chongqing. What is the mood among the people? I mean, how are they responding to something that is obviously fascinating over here? It's got to be just the talk of the town in Chongqing, where Bo Xilai was so popular.
Yeah, as I mentioned, this was his final power base. This is where the Red movement, the new left movement in China, was being run from by Bo Xilai. So what the Chinese government, the central government in Beijing, is concerned about is our angry Chongqingers essentially protesting the decision of the government. We don't have any indication that that's happening. However, for the past 2 days, I've been interviewing folks here, and Bo Xilai continues to have widespread support among the people. I ask, how do you feel about that? I ask, do you believe Bo Xilai is corrupt? And they say, this is much above what's true and what's untrue. This is a matter of politics. This is a matter of high-level politics, and this is something that the people really don't have any say over.